today we shall be doing or covering something which is a little bit more nerdy than usual. Now, I would be lying if I said that I myself am not a nerd in any way, shape or form, because of course Star Wars and just Star Wars. But I've seen quite a few videos and I didn't realize how relaxing they were, and whilst I was watching them I really found myself switching off. I was kind of getting triggered, but in a different zone of just feeling nice and relaxed and content and kind of connecting up a little bit of childhood nostalgia, which was great. So we are all probably familiar with Pokemon and Pokemon Go and all those Pokemon things. I myself, when I was young, and I think primary school age, probably about 7, 8, I myself started to collect Pokemon cards when they came out, and I loved all that. And whilst I was watching these people's videos about their Pokemon cards, I just thought, I used to have Pokemon cards, and in one of those folders with plastic on it, which started to trigger me. So I thought, well, it is time to find my collection and do a little show and show you what I got and talk about it, because it's not just the cards I've got in there as well. I've got things in there which I used to collect, all Pokemon related, but the original. I didn't cross over to the other side when they started releasing new Pokemon. For me, I was very much into the original ones, and once they started to introduce new Pokemon, then I lost interest, because when I like something, and I don't like it being tampered with, and that's how I got out of it, and I moved on. I think around the age I started turning more towards Star Wars. I loved it when I was that age already, but you know when you don't know that you love it that much, and then everything just turns Star Wars. So Pokemon sort of introduced my sort of nerdiness, I think, and yes, it is safe to say that I have Pokemon Go on my phone also, and for me I had that one because I enjoy walking around, so it really does give me an opportunity to go explore a little bit, which I don't mind anyway, but also when you were catching Pokemon and you'd get new ones come up, every single Pokemon, it's like I completely forgot about that, and it's a real nostalgic influx, which I really love. So now that I've got all the Pokemon which I wanted on my phone, then I'll stop playing it, and I think they've introduced new Pokemon to that game as well. So just like the cards, Freddy has lost interest. So what we're here for. So this was my folder, ring binder folder, which I used to collect all of my Pokemon cards in, and I did open this up just to see if I had enough to make a video with it, and it turns out I had quite a lot of Pokemon cards back then, but the thing is, I didn't realise I just had no memories of playing these cards at all, or even like collecting them or putting them in the folder. My mind is blank, except one story which I'll tell you about shortly. So this was my folder, and hit me back with a load of nostalgia with this blue texture along here, and this bit here had all these compartments to store all my bits. So here we go. As you can tell, it's probably a little bit run down, but only because it was well loved and used. So as we open up the page, we have my ultimate favorites. With this, this is where I collect the main three. I think the main three was what's used to start off the Pokemon games with. And let's just get that opened. It's probably going to keep falling out. So what I had was Ivysaur and the Bulbasaur, the grass ones, and then the fire ones, and then the water ones, so Squirtle, Charmander, and Bulbasaur. And with these, I was very sort of impatient in collecting them, and just I never used to get any good cards. Like everyone I used to battle with, they'd always win because I only had Ninetales. That was one of them. Charmeleon, which was my favourite. I remember when Charmander evolved into Charmeleon, the cartoon episode with the Executor, and I loved them as well. But I loved the fire Pokemon. They were my favourite. I always played them on the Pokemon games. So I always had Charmander and Charmeleon, and I had quite a collection of Charmeleons. Now this was when we used to have the first Pokemon cards. As you could probably tell, these are old, very old, and yeah, I didn't realise that they were just like drawn on. I just seemed to have in my memory that they looked a bit more modern, but they're still sort of really nostalgic and cool, and have a sort of charm to it still. But going back to my story, I had a pack of those cards. I think it was the cheapest pack you can get, where you get about 6 Pokemon, and you get all the rubbish ones, and then the trainer packs, and the grass energy things. And then I remember just saying, oh, wouldn't it be funny if I got a Charizard in this one? And then it was like I just won the lottery or something as a kid, because no one had Charizard in my school, and there it was, and I couldn't believe it, and I was just so happy. I was like the happiest boy around after I received my shiny Charizard. And once I had that, I was so happy. I lost it for about an hour. I had no idea where I put it, and I was kind of devastated. But then I found it again, and it was the prime in my collection, prime piece. And before I had that, that was my substitute for a Charizard, because I loved it so much and I couldn't get the card ever, so I just had this sort of postcard scene thing, which they were also doing with collectibles, so I put that in there just to compensate a little bit. So that's my story with Charizard and how it came to be in my collection. And then after that I got or collected the dark ones as well. I think that was after the Mewtwo Strikes Back movie, which kind of disturbed me when I was a kid, like them all turning dark. But now it's pretty cool. But I loved Mewtwo as well. So these are in no particular order, as probably the last time I put these together, I was about 9, 10 years old max. So I didn't have a clue what I was doing. It's just how you like things as a kid and how you see it. So a lot of the shiny ones here, Dragonite and the Team Rocket, Arbok and Weezing, which I also loved. I thought they were pretty great. And then on the next page we have the Eevee evolution Pokemon, and this was another thing playing Pokemon Go, seeing those evolve and just remembering like what happens with these Pokemon. This was in no particular order again, except I remember putting the Eevee evolutions together, and that's another thing about the Pokemon game, is that when you got those Pokemon and then I realised they evolved, just all those memories started coming back, and I think that was the thing that kind of got me playing the game, because I downloaded it and got rid of it and so many people were playing it. And I thought, well, I don't get what all the hype's about. Pokemon has had its chance and it's gone, basically, in my book. But it was all those nostalgic hits, and then I just started going back to it. So we have like, this must have been my not so favourite page, as it's got Rattata on it, and Bellsprout, Porygon. Didn't get Porygon, but yeah. That was page 2. I really didn't realise how many I actually collected. So with here, what I've got now on my Pokemon Go, of course Charizard is my main one, and I was collecting Charmanders, and I got a Charizard quite quickly again, which kind of reminded me when I was a kid. And so now and again when I go for a walk and then I see a bunch of people fighting one of those gems, I might just sort of linger around a little bit, get out my phone and then give them a run for their money. That's the only one I'm really interested in, but I also have Arcanine as one of my main ones. Not a fire Pokemon. Pikachu and Raichus I love because they're just cool. That is simply it. Yeah, I just remember these being in the cartoons. There we go. I keep changing the angle so it's hopefully a little bit better to see. But Onyx was one which I was a big fan of. Brock's Onyx. I think he had an Onyx, but it was always a big, majestic rock Pokemon, but he never seemed to be that powerful. I never understood why. But he's in part of my collection, which I really loved, but never actually won anything because he was rubbish, pretty much, and still is on the game. Yeah, like I said, these are kind of all over the place, and my ring binder has definitely seen better days. So, just that up. So then we start going into. Then we started going into the sort of magic, ghost, psychic Pokemon. That was it. And I really loved Kadabra and Abra and Gengar and all those. And I think it's the episodes which really made me like them. There was an episode with giant Gengar, which I loved. And then there was a giant Abra, or no, Kadabra, or Alakazam, that was the one. And yeah, I really loved those, and I remember seeing that episode and trying to collect those psychic ones. And Ghastly, he was one of my favourites also. I was very particular about which Pokemon I actually liked for some reason. If I saw people with Pokemon I didn't like, I just thought, well, they're not worthy. It was a strange way of thinking. So I think this was all the ones which I wasn't a massive fan of, like Licky Tongue, Farfetch'd. That's so weird. I haven't seen Farfetch'd in the Pokemon Go game, and so once again, that's just sort of brought back nostalgia. Meowth, Tender, Cruel. But then we go to grass type Pokemon. I have kind of sorted them, I guess. Nidorino? Yeah, that's it. He was pretty cool, and I think that was the first I sort of upgraded on Pokemon Go. But my favourite, I don't know why, but Executor, mainly because of that episode, but where there was loads of them, and Charmander defeated them all, but then evolved, and then turned out to be a little so-and-so when he turned into Charmeleon. I love that so much, but I've always had a soft spot for Executor. He was a favourite of mine, and still is. Beedrill just looks like a wasp. I don't like Beedrill. Okay, and then sort of watery type Pokemon. We got Psyduck. I really love Psyduck. In the episodes where Ash used to get him out to fight Pokemon, and I just still remember him just saying his name and slapping his head, and I found that hilarious when I was young. So I've always had a soft spot for Psyduck as well. Coffin, they were cool, evolving into Weezing. I didn't realise I had Bulbasaur here as well, and Ivysaur. I know that in quite a lot of these I've got other Pokemon behind them, but I have not seen an Ivysaur as part of my collection. So I don't know even if you can get Pokemon cards anymore, like the original ones, but maybe I can get me an Ivysaur just to complete it and satisfy my OCD a little bit. I think this is the page which I wasn't a massive fan of. The grassy ones, and yeah, they didn't really do much, and they weren't that exciting. And once again, Beedrill, just go away. It's like the wasps, they always turn up, and Beedrill was always used to turn up for me, and I wasn't a fan of them. So Psyduck again, and Golduck, let's upgrade. I don't know if you can ever get these with like shiny versions of them. I didn't know. I have portions missing, which means some have fallen out. But yeah, I think Poliwrath is a shiny one there, which is pretty cool. But I remember walking whilst playing the game, trying to find the Poliwraths and all the water type Pokemon, and they're always near the river, so it's pretty easy to get. So we go back to the fire ones here. Ninetales, I don't know which one was the original one, but empty ones are disturbing, which means there are definitely some which are being lost. But Charmeleon, my favourite. Another not so favourite page, and that was all the rats and the pigeons and birds and stuff. I liked Pidgeotto down the bottom there, but I wasn't a massive fan of Rattata. I seem to have different variations here. And then Raticate. They're just rats. And this was the problem I had with the Pokemon. The new Pokemon they brought out, but for me, it was too obvious. For example, like Pidgeotto, it was based on the pigeon, obviously, but made cooler, and it kind of looked not realistic, but had an authenticity about it. Whereas, like the new Pokemon, say one looked like a bulldog. I can't remember his name, but that was it. It literally looked like a bulldog, and they just called it Bulldog or something similar, and I just didn't think that was original, and I just never accepted it. But the new Pokemon, it didn't really have that sort of authenticity which the originals had. For me, it just sort of lacked those sort of unique designs. They were different, but it looked like, for me, something from another cartoon. So when I saw the new ones, like when I saw it on the Pokemon Go game as well, a couple of them coming about, they're all really rounded and bright and in your face colourful, and it just didn't do it for me for some reason, and that's why I sort of changed it. I liked that they added new upgrades to existing Pokemon ones, which you thought you couldn't upgrade them anymore. But then that was cool, but just the new Pokemon, a lot of them are kind of trying to be similar to the originals, but be unique at the same time. But for me, epically failed. But that was just my opinion, and I'm sure people love them, and you might like the new ones as well. And I say great, but for me, not so great. I just want my Charizard and Charmeleon, and that is it, and Executor. So, yeah, we don't have exciting ones except Brock's Onyx at the bottom, and once again, it wasn't a really powerful one, just 30 on the energy thing, or battle skills. But it was still Brock's Onyx and an Onyx. You'd think something made of rock that big that can squeeze other things would stand a chance, more of a chance against a Pokemon like, I don't know, Farfetch'd, who has the same sort of energy or battle skills, whatever you call it. But then we go back to, I've got quite a lot of the same ones here. Magmar, Arcanine. I'm not sure if the battle levels are the same or the HB, but yeah, I expect they will be different just so there's some variety. And then we have a shiny Magneton, dark one, and Jolton. We go to the electric ones and a dark Jolton. So yeah, I didn't realise I had so many dark ones. But then we have Pikachu and a shiny one as well. Oh no, it's not. It's just a dark one. And then we went to some cool ones down here. I didn't realise I had a Dragonite. That was pretty cool, but I still don't have that on Pokemon Go. And I don't think I ever will, because I've kind of lost patience with it already. But it has its sort of predecessors. Pokemon here, the upgrade, or the downgrades to it, and then Rhydon, Kabuto, Cubone. All these names just bring back nostalgic memories for me. And then, yeah, I really liked the Machop, Machoke, and Machamp, but I feel like they weren't as strong in battle as they should be, or as they look like they would be. I think it's the muscle thing. I mean, 4 arms with massive biceps and everything, and yet he's not crazy powerful like some Pokemon. So that was my only gripe with the chapter. Oh goodness. I didn't realise I had Mewtwo, and there he is, just packed there. Mewtwo was like my favourite, and I remember with the Game Boys, I had the red one, the Pokemon Red, and doing that cheat where you go into the cave or something and you do something to get a Mewtwo. And I remember once I had Mewtwo, and I had him with my Moltres, I think that was his name, and my Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur, and then I acquired a Mew. I always had that lead to connect the Game Boys so you could battle each other, and I was always winning with my Mewtwo. He was my favourite and most consistent. But he was really cool, and I loved the movie Mewtwo Strikes Back. I didn't know that there was any other movies apart from that one, because that was the only one I remember and had a poster of and watched. But I think there are quite a few now. Well, obviously there must be. But yeah, he was really cool. So we'll pop him back. It's kind of really weird, sort of knowing the last time I opened this up, I was merely a child. And that kind of stuff fascinates me when I think about things like that. So then we sort of go back to the Team Rocket type Pokemon here. The dark ones, Grimer, Golbat, Weezing, Zubat. Yeah, just kind of the real sort of Team Rockety type Pokemon, or the ones that the sort of nasty trainers would have. And there we have it. It kind of goes on to water type based Pokemon, and we'll have Wartortle, Squirtle, and all those sort of sea dwelling ones. Dugong, I really like Dugong because I love seals in general, but he was pretty cool. And also, oh, I haven't got it, but Gyarados as well. He was really cool. That was another thing with the game when I was collecting those fish. What are they called? Not Goldians. But you know, the ones that evolve into Gyarados. And yeah, no, just when it evolved, or I remember they evolved into Gyarados, it was a big revelation because I totally forgot. So yeah, there we kind of have it. All my Pokemon cards, which I collected when I was young, and I suppose this gave me a lot of joy and pleasure when I was small and collecting them. And it's one of those things that you take to school and keep it in your pocket. So a lot of them are being quite used, I suppose. So I think I received this as a present to keep all my Pokemon, which I loved, and I've kept it ever since because it was meaningful to me because it brought me so much joy when I was younger. People who play it now and still enjoy it, and even when I'm walking and I see people kind of glued to their phones, I don't think, well, they're glued to their phones. I just think they're having fun, and why not? It's good because it brings people together in a way. That's the way I see it. But this is really cool. It kind of makes me want to go and buy a couple of packs. If you can just get the original Pokemon, then yeah, I would love to just see what it was like opening another pack again. But I think I'll be disappointed if I didn't get shiny ones, and I'd still be expecting a Charizard. So yeah. So I hope you've enjoyed going through my collection there. It's not a video, I know, that's filled up with sounds, more of it just relaxing time, which is what I kind of get out of when I watch people's videos about Pokemon. So I thought, well, there's no point hiding it. I myself had a collection, and yeah, I have no shame in saying that. I think it's pretty cool still, and I think it's very clever that managed to bring it back again and sort of evolve the game itself from cards to a game. And I recently saw something which is like a 3D projection of Pokemon they kind of don't battle each other, but they're just there in 3D in front of you, which is rather cool. So maybe that's the sort of evolution of the game in the future. So I think I had a lot of compartments where I used to collect different things, and you could tell that these have been well used, and it's pretty funny. Like it's just all the toys that I liked, and it was always Charizard and Mewtwo, and oh, funny that it's a Charizard. So anything with them on it, I always used to just collect it. I don't know if that's focusing or not, but yeah, it's Charizard. So I also collected Pogs of the Pokemon, and these were, when I was going through these, really nostalgic, because like I said about the new Pokemon, I didn't really get them until I saw that, and it just brought back a memory I could not remember. But I don't know what the Pokemon was, but I remember seeing that. I don't know if you used to collect these from crisp packets, but I can imagine that was the case. So I used to love crisps. I try not to eat them now, just because I know I would get too addicted. So I have quite a lot of Pogs in there of various Pokemon, and then also I have just toys. I think a spinny top Magmite, keyring, and all the energy things you need to play the game, which I had so many I just didn't know what to do with them all. So that was kind of the I have some sort of miscellaneous cards here. Licky Tongue, which I probably should put into the missing spots, but Pikachu, Raticate, Bird's Bellsprout, Onyx. But yeah, these are all the doubles, which already had doubles or triples of, and then it goes into. Oh no, it doesn't. It continues. I don't remember seeing that. Oh my goodness. Yeah, see, I haven't seen that even in the game still, so that's pretty cool. Taurus, or whatever it was called. Yeah, all my Pikachus. Yeah, so I had plenty of spares, so to speak. But I think I'll never get rid of these, just because I like them so much, and yeah, if I have a child, then I'd give it to the child. These scenes as well, I assume this would make a big poster on the other side, and used to collect these. But these are all scenes from the Mewtwo movie, and just the various Pokemon cards, and I love this. I remember hanging this above my bed, and it's just a shiny version of the Dark Charizard, Mewtwo, Dark Blastoise, and Venusaur. And I really hope with the game that they go for the Dark Pokemon, then I might start playing it a little bit more. So yeah, just various things and stickers. So yeah, I had quite a lot of sort of, if you call this memorabilia, or things that used to come with the cards and things you could collect. So yeah, just the same old. Oh, Brock's Geodude, he was cool. So that was in my other section of this, and do have quite an awful lot of those stickers, of those scenes and things, so yeah, we won't go into all of those, but it's still quite cool. So I remember I used to get these to protect the important ones, and of course we all know which one the important one would be, and that would be the Charizard, and he would always live in that, in my stack. I remember I used to have an elastic band around it to look after it. So I think that kind of concludes the show and tell. I know that so this kind of concludes the show and tell. I know this is a bit different to what I usually do, but if I see something which I can find relaxing, then I'm quite happy to make it if I can, and then do my take and my version of it. And this gave me a good opportunity to actually see where my Pokemon cards were and acquire them again. And it's cool just to see it and talk about it, and yeah, it's just relaxing for me for these kind of things, and I could quite happily just switch off or when I'm sleeping and just listen to someone or getting some movement triggers and stuff. So. Wow, I even kept the wrappers. So I think I seem to have every wrapper which I purchased in there as well. So there we go. I've seen it all. So I hope that you enjoyed the video and you found it relaxing and kind of got a nostalgic feel about it. And if you don't like Pokemon and you've made it through this far, then that's great. I salute you. But yeah, I suppose it's an acquired taste, and for me it was kind of getting back into that sort of mindset when you were younger and used to find all this exciting, and I love that nostalgic thing, like I said. So this was my Pokemon collection. I hope you enjoyed seeing them, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll be seeing you